Hello, I am Alucard Wesker, and this is Adam Noyce, and this is Kaiju Clashes. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be pitting MechaGodzilla II against MechaGodzilla III, otherwise known as Kiryu.
A battle to the death, the battle of the century.
I want to see death battles do this. Submit.
Yep, submit.
Alright, weighing in at 150,000 tons and 150,482 tons for Super MechaGodzilla, and coming in at 120 meters, MechaGodzilla II, the Heisei.
Okay, now it's my turn.
No.
Okay, okay, all right. I think I got this now. Kiryu, at a height of 60 meters and weight of 36,000 tons, and a total of 40,000 tons in full battle gear, Kiryu.
I would have to say that with the height and weight, I think the edge would have to go to MechaGodzilla II.
I'd have to give it that too, but I'll get into a little something else about that a little later.
Curse you, Millennium, for downloading. Alright, for our quick history over MechaGodzilla II. Back in 1993, the Japanese government created the United Nations Godzilla Countermeasure Center. Getting a bunch of team of scientists together, they created several weapons. First of which was Garuda, a fast-flying
thing.
Yeah, basically. It's basically a really stylized jetpack that can fly at Mach 3. But deeming its defense capabilities obsolete, they decided to scrap Garuda and keeping it mostly for a memento. So then they turned their gaze to Mecha King Ghidorah. What they did was bring him up from the ocean and lift the robotic armor off. And drawing inspiration from Godzilla, they created their own mechanical version. The first time MechaGodzilla and Godzilla fought, Godzilla was promptly destroyed within the first 5 seconds.
Yeah, pretty much.
But Godzilla fought back and destroyed MechaGodzilla. After meeting up the second time, MechaGodzilla, with repairs and combining with Garuda, was able to defeat and kill Godzilla. Only through interference with Rodan was Godzilla able to rise up and blow MechaGodzilla to smithereens, thus ending the short, tragic history of MechaGodzilla II.
Okay, a brief history of Kiryu, also known as Mechanical Dragon or MechaGodzilla III. He was created by the Anti-Megalosaurus Force, the AMF, which is a subdivision of the Japanese Xenomorph Self-Defense Force, also known as the JXSDF. This is produced by when Godzilla suddenly came out of nowhere and started to destroy shit, and suddenly everyone realized, well, what the fuck, he's not gonna... Nothing we really have in our arsenal is really doing it, so let's actually make a mechanical version of Godzilla. And so they use the skeletal remains of the original Godzilla that attacked back in 1954 to use as the basis for MechaGodzilla. So inside of MechaGodzilla, there is Godzilla's original skeleton. Let's see, the first encounter with Godzilla was in 2002. Which turned out to be a half victory for MechaGodzilla III, for the fact that they were able to drive Godzilla back out into the ocean by himself, but yet at the same time there were several malfunctions with MechaGodzilla, resulting in him having to be basically rebuilt the next year. And in 2003, with the help of Mothra, he was actually able to defeat Godzilla by dragging him down to the deep depths of the oceans and sacrificing himself for the sake of mankind.
I'm sure we all remember the tragedy of 2002. So many lives lost.
Lives lost.
In that one Newton's cradle on that one guy's desk. Starkly different histories. One of them's a complete mechanical creature, and the other one's a cyborg.
Right. That's what makes them so different. You're right.
God, I love these differences.
I love these differences. Me too.
Alright, time to start with the arsenal. MechaGodzilla 2 comes with a beam weapon, which is... I think he ate one too many Skittles, or he ate a rainbow pony, one or the other.
Oh, God. Maybe he's just got pride, man.
That works, too. Toho, the original brony. MechaGodzilla 2 comes with a breath weapon called the Mega Buster, which appears to be as strong as Godzilla's, even his Super Spiral Ray, which had stood at a standstill until it exploded. MechaGodzilla also comes with tranquilizers, paralyzer missiles. He also comes with laser cannons in his eyes. That's awesome. And he also has shock anchors that come out of his arms to zap his enemies, later modified known as the G-Crusher, which specifically targeted Godzilla's second brain and blew it up. He also comes with his, well, I guess you could also say primary weapon, as well as his trump card, the plasma grenade. It uses whatever energy he absorbs and fires it right back at Godzilla, kind of like Super X2's fire mirror. I don't think I'm missing anything. Oh, yeah. When he combines with Garuda, he also gains Garuda's flight capabilities and his laser cannons. For MechaGodzilla's defense, he comes with some form of alloy called NT1 coated in artificial diamond. It's basically saying his outer structure is near indestructible. Your turn.
Well, Kiryu is definitely, much sleeker than the MechaGodzilla II. That cannot be debated. That is just proven in both of the movies. He's definitely agile, moving very fluidly, and almost like an organic. So this means, in terms of defense, MechaGodzilla 3-Kiryu can definitely hold his own when it comes to hand-to-hand combat, more than previous versions of MechaGodzilla. Its armament includes an oral laser cannon, which comes out of its mouth, just like the ones that you see that are like shooting Gyron War the Gargantuas in that one. That's what it looks like. Dual laser cannons on each arm. A flight pack, which contains 2 forward thrusters, which is how it's able to move from point A to point B extremely quickly if needed. And also has a series of shoulder missiles, which are those 2 things that are on its shoulders, which can shoot at higher accuracy and higher rates than normal missiles, which could keep Godzilla or any other monster it's fighting busy for a long period of time. Its metal is made out of crystal. I think that's what it was, crystal or diamond crystal, which makes it the hardest and most heat-resistant metal out of all the MechaGodzillas out there. Let's see here, for other things than that. He also has, in 2002, his biggest and most powerful weapon was the Absolute Zero cannon in his stomach, which he could fire at, and whatever he hit would suddenly turn completely to ice, and any sort of sound wave or anything would turn it into ashes. Now, again, that was replaced in 2003 because Godzilla's arrival was too quick, so by that time they took out the damaged Absolute Zero weapon and instead replaced it with yet another super laser cannon, just like its oral laser, except its one in the stomach replacing the Absolute Zero is about 20 times stronger and more accurate, which I kind of find funny considering the fact that its mouth has its eyes or whatever. But anyways, it's more accurate. So yeah, that pretty much sums up Kiryu. Definitely has less weapons than MechaGodzilla 2, but definitely far more agile.
So basically this is going to be a game of speed versus power. Do you want to be the Tyrannosaur or do you want to be the faster Velociraptor?
Right.
This is definitely going to be a very tough match, I think.
Yes. Yes.
I'm pretty sure that, well, let's first, how would they actually get together and fight? I actually have a very funny theory here.
Oh, God. I love theories.
What if somebody uploaded the genetic life and disk operating system into MechaGodzilla 2? And it went crazy.
I would be very scared.
and try to offer you cake as it blew you up.
I'd be very scared. I'd be very, very scared. Oh, yeah, and Kiryu has something that MechaGodzilla 2 does not have, and that is a tail, which that tail can also be used in hand-to-hand combat as a defense mechanism.
You know, that is actually something I always liked about Kiryu over all the other MechaGodzillas. I'm like, finally, it has a tail!
I know, right? Yeah.
Alright, personally, I actually think MechaGodzilla 2's armor is more durable because it took 5 super spiral rays to actually blow him up after having his armor plate melt.
The key is it melted.
Yes, without Rodan and his happy sparkly glitter.
The key there was MechaGodzilla 2 armor started melting. No matter how many times Godzilla breathed his atomic breath at Kiryu, it never melted. It was still pretty durable. Even though you could still see that there was damage being done, it was still doing the job that it needed to do, which was protecting the gears on the inside.
Except for when it got his eye removed.
Well, it's an eye.
True, of course, there's going to be less metal around that area.
That is correct, yeah.
I also noticed it's the same eye that MechaGodzilla 2 lost to Rodan.
So, let's face it, the eyes are very vulnerable no matter what we do.
True. Well, I definitely think MechaGodzilla 2's armament's definitely going to help him out defensive-wise. It's like the immovable object versus the unstoppable force here.
Well, yeah, I can't help but think of King Kong versus Godzilla, because Godzilla's a tank, while King Kong is very mobile. He's able to move around quicker and stuff like that. I can't help but draw back to that. Here's the thing that I think with MechaGodzilla 2 versus Kiryu. MechaGodzilla 2 is a huge goddamn tank and packs a lot of firepower. But the key that Kiryu has, as I believe, an advantage over MechaGodzilla 2, is that Kiryu can move around very quickly. Again, he also has those thrusters that can fire him from point A to point B. In other words, like if MechaGodzilla fires one of his lasers at... or the Mega Blaster thingy-majigger at Kiryu, Kiryu can fire one of his thrusters, and he can quickly dodge the blast. Also, the thing that I think Kiryu definitely has over MechaGodzilla 2 is that MechaGodzilla 2 can't swivel very quickly. He's very slow. That means Kiryu can use his thrusters or his speed to his advantage by flanking MechaGodzilla, which that could give definitely a different trajectory on MechaGodzilla's path, and no matter what happens, I think Kiryu can definitely use that to his advantage.
I actually think MechaGodzilla 2 has a counter to that. Garuda flies at a speed of Mach 3, giving its speed to MechaGodzilla. So if it came to a hover battle, MechaGodzilla is actually able to fly around rather fast. Maybe not actually, as fast as Kiryu.
As the physics would go, actually, because that much weight would have been added to the Garuda, it would make the Garuda have to move or have to put a lot more energy into its thrusters, so it would naturally be slowed down. Well, Kiryu doesn't have to worry about that. Kiryu can just move around as quick as it really can go. It doesn't need to worry about all that extra weight on it, while MechaGodzilla 2 would have to.
It's only 482 tons.
It's only 482 tons. You know, that's minor. That's minor.
I think the real threat to Kiryu is actually the G-Crusher. If any of those wires get into him, he's pretty much short-circuited.
That is a huge threat. I will admit that is a huge threat. But I think Kiryu has a huge opportunity here with... One, he has that drill on his hand. One of his hands can turn into a drill, which can cut through the wires before MechaGodzilla can do anything. And because Kiryu can move quicker, it can definitely happen a lot more smoothly. Also, again, he has those thrusters, which can move him from point A to point B pretty quick. And the fact that Kiryu is run kind of half organically, not just from people inside him or people in a ship above, he can react like an organic. Therefore, he has that hand-eye coordination on him. While MechaGodzilla 2, everything has to be programmed. into him in order for him to do stuff. So I think that Kiryu, again, has an advantage there.
Well, even if the thrusters would help get those wires out of him, personally, it also takes about 3 seconds for his hand to transform into a drill, and by then it's easy just to flick a button. And Kiryu's also a lot smaller than Heisei Godzilla was, and he couldn't get those wires out of him, and he was throwing his entire body weight into it.
Yeah. Again, I think the G Crusher is definitely Kiryu's most vulnerable weapon, or where he's most vulnerable. The only thing that I think that he could use as a defense for this, and I think this is where Kiryu has the major advantage over MechaGodzilla II, is that he has the speed and agility. Because
it's a matter of actually trying to get the wires into him. He would have to be severely damaged first.
Yes. Well, I'm going to call back to King Kong versus Godzilla. King Kong actually did a really good job at fighting Godzilla. In fact, if you really look at it, King Kong technically kind of won. I mean, just because he was quicker and he was a lot more swift with his movements, while Godzilla was just a giant tank. MechaGodzilla II versus Kiryu is the same thing. MechaGodzilla II is more like a giant brute tank, while Kiryu is very much like a quick, agile thing. I also call back to some battles with the Enterprise versus like the Borg Cube. I mean, the Cube is this big, lumbersome thing that's very intimidating, but when you got the Enterprise, which is dwarfed by the Borg Cube, the Enterprise was able to move around. It was able to dodge several of the Borg lasers, and so it was actually able to put a huge punch into the Borg Cube. So again, I just use that again as evidence that Kiryu could do a significant amount of damage to MechaGodzilla II.
True. In terms of speed, you're definitely going to want more speed than power. Kind of like if you ever played Star Wars: The Force Unleashed.
Yeah.
It's like a little old Star Killer versus like that big old creature, the Gorog. It's just dodging and dealing small amounts of damage until you actually get him down.
Right.
So there's no doubt that in terms of speed, Kiryu's top dog there.
Yep, Kiryu is top dog there. I also want to say that his weapons can also shoot a lot quicker. I will definitely add that. I mean, when I was watching MechaGodzilla 2 and then watching against MechaGodzilla, his laser cannons, Kiryu's laser cannons, fire a lot quicker than any of the missiles for MechaGodzilla 2. But again, I'm not sure if that would really do anything or not.
Right.
It can definitely add confusion to the people who are piloting MechaGodzilla 2. It can add a lot of confusion with that.
True. But I think Kiryu's laser weapons and his missiles would only serve as distractions. The only way I think he would be able to take down MechaGodzilla is in hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah, and I do think Kiryu could definitely win, despite how small he is compared to MechaGodzilla 2. I think that he could definitely win in a hand-to-hand combat battle just because of how swiftly Kiryu can move, and just how organically and fluidly he can move compared to MechaGodzilla 2.
Absolutely, but his all his energy-based attacks would only serve to power the plasma grenade, and if you were to get hit by that, it would not end well.
Well, again, it takes a long time for the plasma grenade to load and to cool down. And also, again, if we use Absolute Zero if Kiryu uses Absolute Zero on MechaGodzilla 2, MechaGodzilla 2 is screwed no matter what. And again, just because Kiryu can move quicker, if he's able to get a lock on MechaGodzilla 2, using that agility to his advantage, he can easily crush MechaGodzilla 2 with his Absolute Zero, despite him being significantly smaller.
Personally, I don't think that's possible, because when I was watching against MechaGodzilla, Kiryu always had to stop, unlock everything, and then fire. And it took a long, long time for him to actually load up the Absolute Zero. It was easier to fire the Mega Buster than it was the plasma grenade than it was the Absolute Zero cannon. It took way too long for actual battle practicality. He had to at least pin down his opponent or confuse it too much. I'd say the only way Kiryu would be able to do that is if he, like, confused absolutely everybody inside and then, like, disappeared and went behind MechaGodzilla to actually do that. But considering how long it takes, I don't think the battle practicality would be too effective.
Okay.
And not to mention, it really depends on which version you're using, the 2002 or the 2003.
Well, the 2003, what can happen is the two plasma, or the two lasers can fire at the same time, creating a decent punch. Definitely not as powerful as the Absolute Zero, but it'll create enough punch to, again, create confusion with MechaGodzilla 2.
It's true, but the NT1 armor would just absorb it all. That's why Godzilla didn't use his beam too much. He realized it would just be futile.
Yeah, those aren't plasma, though. The lasers, they aren't plasma. Godzilla's breath is plasma, I know that. Or at least that's how they...
I thought it was just pure atomic radiation.
I knew they described it as plasma in the Heisei series, but whatever.
I don't know, I just knew MechaGodzilla used it as energy for his he even used Rodan's uranium beam.
Okay.
I don't know, I'm just thinking he would easily shut down Kiryu's energy-based attacks. But I think the only way Kiryu's going to win this is if he does go in for Raptor-style slash-and-dash attacks. As in run in quickly and then...
that's all I can really think of, too, because, again, unlike Kiryu, MechaGodzilla 2 is kind of powerless from behind, if you really look at it, except if MechaGodzilla turns his head around, which is an advantage MechaGodzilla 2 does have over Kiryu, which is that he can turn his head completely around. But even if MechaGodzilla 2, if Kiryu can position himself on a certain position where no matter what, Kiryu's head couldn't turn around and shoot at him, he could pretty much expose MechaGodzilla 2 from behind, because from behind MechaGodzilla 2 is almost actually vulnerable.
Yeah, but it would actually take a while too, because he would have to dig through Garuda to get to MechaGodzilla.
Garuda, which then, if Kiryu digs through Garuda, he takes off MechaGodzilla's power to move around quickly with the jets, as you said, which if he gets through Garuda, then all of a sudden MechaGodzilla 2 is left on the ground, which gives Kiryu an even larger advantage.
Right, unless, of course, MechaGodzilla turned it into an aerial battle, but I don't think he would.
I don't think they would either. I think if they got to an aerial battle, I think Kiryu would have the advantage there, in all honesty, because he's just so much lighter.
Yeah, MechaGodzilla 2 was only good for hover attacks to attempt to fire down from above.
It would be like a B-17 bomber versus a Japanese Zero. It never was. The outcome was never good for the B-17 bomber.
No. So, basically, this all comes down to if MechaGodzilla 2's lucky enough to get in a shot,
right?
Kiryu's screwed, but
Kiryu's screwed. But if Kiryu keeps up his agility,
right,
it's going to be extremely hard for MechaGodzilla 2 to be able to do that.
Actually, I just saw a video. One of Sidious's Sith apprentices versus Asajj Ventress, and it came down exactly like this. Do you want to be the ghost that hardly ever gets hit? Or do you want to be the guy who can, if you do hit him, you're screwed? And I forgot the name of the other guys, but the analysis said it would probably be better if you got in that lucky shot, because you're not going to be perfect during a fight.
Again, that's Star Wars, not Godzilla. And
I know, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Just drawing reference anyway.
And considering the fact that MechaGodzilla 2 is only piloted by humans, while MechaGodzilla 3 has a whole organic section to him, that gives another advantage to Kiryu that he can act more like an animal.
True, if he goes into like some form of rage mode, he'll be able to.
Yeah, if he suddenly turns into the Godzilla thing, where Godzilla takes him over, yeah, it's going to be extremely hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
For anything to get a hold of Kiryu.
Well, I've also noticed when he was in Godzilla mode, he acted a lot more like Godzilla.
Yep.
Just slowly walking forward, butchering everything in its path.
Well, again, that was when he had nothing to fight, either.
True. Well, he did have the heron, and he just simply shot missiles at it.
That was a heron. That wasn't MechaGodzilla 2.
I know, you're right. I'm just drawing straws here. So yeah, it's all down just to that lucky shot. It would be very, very hard to figure this out.
Yeah, I would honestly go with the speed and agility, because that's proved to be extremely effective in the past with army strategies and so on and so forth. And if you follow Sun Tzu's The Art of War, agility will always beat the cannon. So I will go with Kiryu in this fight.
I would actually have to agree with you. I think Kiryu would win this fight. Again, it all comes down to that lucky shot. MechaGodzilla can't get that lucky shot.
Yeah, again, if MechaGodzilla 2 actually gets that lucky shot, if he was able to get that lucky shot, Kiryu's fucked. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Kiryu's fucked. But I think that speed and agility is just going to keep MechaGodzilla 2 pinned.
Well, I just thought of something. MechaGodzilla 2's missiles might catch up to him.
Were they heat-seeking, which basically meant that they followed them? I don't remember that. I remember MechaGodzilla 3's didn't do that. I didn't know if I can remember if MechaGodzilla 2's did that or not.
I think they were all just lock-ons, since most of MechaGodzilla's weapons were lock-ons.
Right.
Right, so like stuff like the G-Crusher and the missiles were lock-ons, while the laser cannons went everywhere.
If the G-Crusher was used against Kiryu and Kiryu got out of the way, then the G-Crusher would grab nothing.
Right, so yeah, that it would have to be an absolute lock-on.
Right.
Which is why I said Kiryu actually has to be stopped before he can do anything, like shot with a missile and have his kneecap blown out or something.
Right.
But yeah, again, it comes down to that lucky shot, whether that one stray missile hits you or you actually manage to dodge that and brutalize your opponent.
Right.
But yeah, I think in most cases Kiryu would win, because all MechaGodzilla has with him is luck and a crap ton of weapons.
Right.
So I declare Kiryu the victor.
And of course, if you guys want to debate this in the comments, feel free. And we might be completely wrong in this battle, but oh well.
Stay tuned for 2004 Gigan versus Mecha King Ghidorah, the cyborg battle.
That just sounds badass.